After making videos for multiple years on houseplants and owning hundreds upon hundreds of different houseplants over the years, I get asked a lot of questions. Some questions make sense, some of them surprise me, and some have answers that people don't always expect. So today I thought I'd answer some of these most asked questions, if for no other reason, to help me from having to type them out over and over again, either in comments or on DMs. Hi, my name is Memo, this is my channel, Houseplantygoodness, and essentially it's a place where I like to geek out about my big passion. You might be able to see it behind me, it's tropical houseplants. So whether you've been watching the channel for years or you're a recent addition to the craziness that is this channel, you might have wondered some of these questions along the way. So what's my favorite plant? Is it difficult or different growing in humidity? What do I do when I go on holiday with all these plants? Is that ultimately expensive plant worth it? And many more. So grab yourself a beverage, sit down, enjoy whilst I go through some of these questions that seem to be following me around the internet wherever I go. If a question that you have doesn't come up, please do add it in the comments down below, because I am sure these questions will build up over time and there might be another video like this coming soon. So let's go through the questions, shall we? In no particular order. First one up is a nice and simple one. What is your easiest plant? This is one that I get a lot of the times. And there's a lot of different ones that I would class as easiest for me. I've done whole videos on some of my feral plants and I will add them at the top there. But if I had to choose just the one, I would probably say it would come up between the two plants behind me. So either the philodendron esmeraldense, and I know you might be looking at this going, but it's looking a bit busted at the moment. There is good reasons. It had some stress over the winter, but the newest leaves are at the top here. And I would say the newest leaf now on this, looking at it, is probably close to 1.5 meters. You can't see the rest of it at the top there, so it is getting quite large. It's close to, it's probably not quite 1.5 meters, but it's getting there. And the other one is, again, for the people that have been here on the channel for a long time, might have noticed some things have moved, is the plant that is here now, the Anthurium vitarifolium. And I know you might be surprised that I'm putting a vitarifolium or an Anthurium specifically in this, but this has got to be one of the easiest plants. Yes, would a golden pothos be easier than both of these? Yes. So consider that also an answer. Something like a golden pothos. I would actually say the pothos enjoy for me has been super, super easy. But from the plants that are not the usual suspects, I would definitely say the philodendron esmeraldense and the Anthurium vitarifolium. And you knew where we were going with this. What would be my hardest plant that I've experienced? There's a few. Did a whole series of videos of my most prima donna-esque plants, so I'll link it somewhere at the top there. But if I had to choose just one that drove me insane, I was pulling my hair out, I'm just like, I cannot get you to do anything or be happy, it would be the philodendron lupinum. Closely followed up by the Ficus Audrey. Both of these plants, I would have been better off buying a fake plant. Again, my experience is nothing to take it personally, but these are questions that are coming towards me. Yeah, both of these plants, I would have been better off getting a fake plant because it probably would have done more than either one of these two real plants, living plants that did nothing. Sweet FA throughout their entire journey and really not that exciting. So hardest plants for me would be that. Ones that I would say were very difficult that maybe kind of rotted out really, really quickly and went towards root rot, either because the plant was challenging or because there's issues with the growers getting you a plant that is good enough to grow kind of happily fast, would be the variegated string of pearls, mainly because the growers, they'll try their best to water it before it comes to you, but then the damage has already been done. And again, another one that I had challenges with was the Scindapsus trebui. I had the Moonlight. I think I had to get 2 or 3 different plants before I got the one that survived in my care, mainly again because they can go towards root rot super easily. There's an interesting one that I get on occasion, which is, do I really use humidity? And I'm just like, well, yes. Like, there's humidity in this space all the time. So in the conservatory, I'm growing in a conservatory in the UK. By default, the easiest way you can think of this is, you know how a lot of people will have grow tents or they'll have glass cabinets. This entire thing is a glass cabinet. It is pretty much a walk-in terrarium-ish situation in here. So I'll give you an example. I'm looking at my humidity at the moment, and I've got windows open because it is super hot today. Looking at the temperature as well, it's building, but at the moment it's 26 degrees in here, but it's also 68% humidity, and that is with the windows open. That's with the humidity dropping because the windows are open. It can go a bit lower than that in the summer when it's really, really dry heat, and it can go down to 40% humidity, but times when the windows are closed in the winter, things like that, this place can go up to 70, 80, even 90% humidity. There was a running joke that I had at some point where people would come into the house when I had my old conservatory, the wooden conservatory, that would get even more humid than this one does. And there was a point where there was so much condensation from the humidity on the top, on the ceiling, on the kind of glass at the top, that you'd walk in here and it was hot and it was kind of condensation at the top and it would literally rain. It would rain down upon me. So a lot of high humidity. Does it mean I only grow plants in here? No, if you've been around for a while, you know that I'm growing quite a few plants in regular household humidity. The ones that I know are going to need a bit more humidity, I pop in here. Is it 100% necessary? And I think maybe that's where the question was going. Depends on the plant, and even then, no. My stance, and I will stand by this, is if you have, and this is a challenging thing, if you get the watering just 100% right for the plant, which is almost impossible for a lot of people, but if you do get to that Goldilocks region, and it is the perfect watering for that plant, even with the lower humidity, you could still get most plants to be happy. Most plants, they might not look 100% their best all of the time like you would if you had them in a tropical rainforest or in 100% humidity in a terrarium, but they will still look a damn sight better than if you don't have the watering right and you've got low humidity. Another interesting one is from people that maybe haven't tried grow lights yet, that ask, do grow lights actually work? This is a nuanced answer, at least in my experience. Yes and no. It depends on how you use them and it depends on what you are using. Now, and this is why a lot of people don't always necessarily sponsor me, because I am spilling the tea and I am spilling the truth, basically. Do you 100% need a grow light? No, nobody needs a grow light 100% of the time, or even at all, depending on what you've got. So if you've got decent windows and you are comfortable with just using windows and getting the light from there, perfect, do you. I also know there's a lot of people that live in dark apartments with north-facing windows and they cannot physically grow plants well enough unless they have got grow lights. Now the thing that I was saying is controversial on this one is, do you need to be spending the money every time on super expensive grow lights? No. You don't, at least not in my opinion or experience. You can go for some cheaper grow lights. It's about the distance to the plant. It's about how many hours the grow lights are on, because a lot of people are wondering whether or not it is the strength of the grow light, but ultimately you can have a weak grow light, again, depending on how weak it is, but you can have a weak grow light, and as long as the plant is close enough to that grow light, and the other part of the equation is not just the distance from the light, but it's the duration of the light, then you can use a relatively cheap, inexpensive grow light, possibly, by the way, and this is something that not a lot of people talk about. I've also had some good experiences with growing plants under just regular lights, like a regular light bulb, as long as, again, it's close enough and as long as that light is on for long enough. Whether or not you'd want to do that in terms of like energy saving is a different story. Anecdotally as well, I've spoken to some of the bigger growers, the more kind of individual growers, not big companies, but like one individual, but they're a big kind of grower and seller online. And they were actually saying they had better success with grow lights or even LED lights, not necessarily grow lights, that had a warmer hue rather than a cooler hue. So the lights that are glowing yellowish rather than glowing bluish. So take from that what you will. That was something that I have heard. I have not experimented with that myself, but if you know that to be true, do let us all know down below. But yes, are they necessary? No, if you've got decent light. If you don't have any good light at all, then yes, you probably will need to supplement. But also note the word that I said, supplement. So if you've got loads and loads of lights in the summer from your windows, you don't need to use your grow lights in the summer, regardless of whether or not I do and mine in here, because I've got shelves that are quite dark further down below. But this is the thing, it's situational. So does the situation require it? And how long does it require it for? Because sometimes you might say, okay, you know what, in here in the winter, I don't need to be using my grow lights all day, even though it's less hours of light overall. I might only need to supplement. So I might need to have my grow lights switching on early in the morning, switching off mid-morning, so then the natural light comes in, and then switching on again in the afternoon until kind of late or kind of early evening, and then at that point switch off. Does that make sense? So I'm supplementing it so that instead of getting just 8 hours of light, the plants are getting 14 hours of light. Does that make sense? So I'm adding some light in the beginning from grow lights and some light at the end from grow lights. Oh, this is a question that always stumps me because it changes. So what is my favorite plant? So first and foremost, it's almost like a mascot of the channel. It is going to be the Philodendron esmeraldense. Behind me, there's a few others if I'm looking around that I would say are very, very high up on that list on a permanent basis, and then I'll give you my current favorite. So the Anthurium veitchii, I am super in love with. The Syngonium chiapense is another one that I adore. The Piper sarmentosum is another one that I love. The Philodendron splendid is one that just has my heart. Apologies for a bit of a jump there. My battery on my camera decided to die on me. So there's a new battery that's just about enough energy that I should be okay. But yes, another one that I would say is, so the Philodendron esmeraldense, the Anthurium veitchii, the Splendid, the Philodendron Splendid, the Piper sarmentosum, the Philodendron Dark Lord, which you might not be able to see so much now because I've had to kind of shift things around. I have heard all of you. I will be getting you an image of what all the plants are with labels that I will add at the end of videos. It might not be on this video, it might be the next one, but I wanted to move things around first before I take that picture and label everything so that you know the consistency of it all. Current favorites, because I'm a magpie and it's whatever's in front of me at that particular moment in time, would be the Musa florida, so the variegated banana, 100%, and the Anthurium Queen of Hearts, because once a goth, always a goth. Snail damage, but yes, current ones because I've only just recently got them. But ultimately you can see there's some staple favorites and there's ones that are current favorites as well, but much like any parent where they just like, choose your favorite child. I can't choose my favorite child. I'll give you an option, I'll give you a few options, but that's the reality of this. Another one that I get in one form or another is, what do I think the biggest mistake that beginners make is? And this is an interesting one because there's a couple of things that come to mind straight away. So the over focus on humidity when they're still trying to learn some of the other basics. I'm just like, get those down first, and humidity can come as a secondary thing. But if you get the watering right, like I was talking about earlier on, you might not need as much of the humidity or humidity at all. Again, depending on the plant, sweeping generalizations, but the other one is fungus gnats. It might come as a bit of a surprise, especially if you're just starting off, and fungus gnats tend to be, especially if you're an overwaterer, especially if you've not kind of dialed in your growing media just yet, fungus gnats become a thing that everybody focuses on because it's always flying, they're always flying in your face, basically. Ask anybody that's been doing this for a long period of time, so years, and ask if fungus gnats even focus into their brain as in something that they worry about. Like 9 times out of 10, most people will be like, oh no, I've got much bigger worries than just fungus gnats. So it's just these things. It's not to take away. It's kind of almost like a rite of passage for both of these things. But those are the things that I think a lot of the kind of beginners, when you're first starting off, you tend to focus on. And as somebody who's been doing this for a few years, and again, please chime in down below if you disagree or agree, don't focus on those things altogether. They're a lot more transient than you think that they are. And then I'll join the next couple of questions together is, how often do I water? That $1 million question. And do I fertilize? So I water specific to each plant. I've mentioned this a few times on my channel. I use an app, and I don't know if it's available still. That's the annoying thing. It was a plant care app. I'm hoping it's still, and it's only gone for a while, and it's maybe going to come back in a different format. But luckily mine still works at the moment. I do not know what happens when I change my phone. I might cry. But it's got all of my plants on there with images, with roughly how many days I need to be watering. And by watering, I mean checking first and then watering. And in terms of fertilizing, I fertilize year round. And I fertilize with every watering. The difference is if a fertilizer is asking for a strength of 1 tablespoon for water, for a litre of water, for example, I will only use 1/4 or 1/6 of a tablespoon. I know it sounds really small and it's probably not doing very much, but it builds up in the soil over time. My point isn't to flood everything with fertilizer and give them a big feed. My point is to drip feed sometimes, and it will build up over time. On to the point of watering, because I should have mentioned this, on the app I can also adjust between winter and summer, and if you don't do that already, what are you doing? You should be adjusting your watering kind of frequency between water and summer, otherwise you fall into issues like root rot in the winter super fast. And then something that people ask me a lot of the times is, what's my most overrated plant? I'll give you two options, and I don't think anybody's going to be surprised by these. The melanochrysis, or the philodendron melanochrysum, which you can see back here as well, it's actually getting quite large at the moment at the back there, and it's facing that direction because it gets the least amount of light and it's still getting blown out. And then obviously the pink princess, the philodendron pink princess. Both of those for me were massively overrated. Controversially, actually no, I'm not going to add the philodendron gloriosum in this because I know there's a big fan base out there and I don't think it's necessarily overrated. I didn't gel with it because it took up too much space and that was the only reason, but it depends. I think what is overrated as a group is needing to collect every single different variant of every single different kind of genre in terms of rare plants. I know a lot of people have stopped doing that now, which I think maybe the healthier way that everybody's moving towards now is, yes, a lot more people are rediscovering common houseplants and enjoying the simplicity and the joy that that brings them. But I'm also seeing something that's interesting, and I think I fall maybe into that second category, where I still have a lot of my common plants, again, rediscovering and everything like that, but actually focusing on the rare plants, or the ones that weren't so easy to find on the market. They're easier now, which is a good thing. They're easier to find, but it's actually focusing on some of those plants that people have had for years. And I'll say that one more time. The rare plants that were rare at some point, but you don't ever hear enough people that ever... I know there's other parameters here. Some people, they maybe wasn't available enough to enough people or they were too expensive. But by and large, the rare type plants that are still around now, years later in people's collections, and they are still caring for them, growing them, getting them large, and talking about them, that's where I pay attention. That is no longer a trend, but it is something that's a positive that came out of a trend, which is an introduction of a plant that could be quite adaptable for a lot of people, or is an easier plant to grow. I'm not saying it's going to be the new golden pothos, but I am saying it's one that could be something that we see a lot more of because by and large, most people can grow it relatively happily. Last couple of questions. So the next one is, what do I do when I go on holiday? Stress. I'm about to go on holiday in a couple of weeks' time. Don't worry, I will be pre-filming and editing and scheduling some videos to come out to you. You might not get 2 videos a week. You might get 1 video a week for the 2 weeks that I'm away, but I'm going back home to Greece and Cyprus, and I'm looking forward to sitting on the beach and doing nothing. It'll be great. I might try and get some footage of my mum's kind of balcony in Greece or my mum's garden, kind of veranda and internal house plants in Cyprus to give you a bit of an update whilst I'm there. But yeah, with a lot of stress. However, there is something that I do, and some people are just like, you should maybe kind of make this a thing and like offer it to like your subscribers and things like that. But I'm just like, I don't know, because I just don't have the time to make it pretty. But for the people that don't know, I work in digital marketing and web design. And interestingly enough, I've done a website. It's very busted looking. It just needs to be very functional. So it's not pretty. That's what I'm saying. I can't necessarily hand it out to people because it's not anything nice to look at. But on that website, I literally will go around, and whoever's taking care of my plants, it might be a different person, I try to make it as simple as possible to follow. So I will take pictures of all of my shelves, of all of the locations where the plant is. I'll add arrows pointing to which plant it is, and I'll put them on the website with a bit of a description. Does this take time for the amount of plants that I do? Yes. But it's also, when it gets this formulaic, it's a lot easier for me to know, okay, I just need to do this, this, and this. It will take me 2 or 3 hours to just create that list, and then I've done it. And I have never had issues. Note how many videos I've come back, and maybe there's 1 or 2 plants that have died, but that's because I've missed them from the picture, not because the people that were watering ever made a mistake. That was on me. Absolutely fine. And also, the one thing that I will tell you is that if you're only going away for something like a week, and it's very rare that I would go away for just a week, I wouldn't even get anybody to water my plants. I would do the mother of all waterings just before I go away for a week. But by and large, and that's only because of the conservatory. The conservatory, depending on the time of the year, can be like, if I'm going away for like a week in the winter, I'm just going to water as normal and just water them again when I come back a week later. They'll be fine. They'll be absolutely fine. Maybe 1 or 2 plants that are super sensitive and need a lot of watering, fine. But by and large, they'll be fine. It's when you go to the 2-week mark or longer that you really should be getting somebody in to water them. And to be fair, I don't get them to water as many plants as I would every single day. Even in the summer, I'd reduce the watering for all the plants, and I'm just kind of go, you know what? Normally you need watering every 5 days. You know what? I don't want to ask that person to be watering you every 5 days. They can water you every 7 days. You'll be fine. It's okay. If I come back and there's a couple of crispy leaves, that's fine. You'll get through it. It's okay. Don't stress about it too much, and get a system going that works for you, and you'll be super, super happy. You knew I had to leave the best one for last. The big question is, do you still kill plants? All of us together now? Yes! Of course I do. Everybody still does. It doesn't matter. And I love the community that I've built on this channel, because there's people down in the comments that have been growing plants for decades. And even they're saying, and again, it's a good thing. There's no shame in it. And it's also fantastic for the people that are just starting off, or people that have been doing this for a tiny bit of time when they're still stressing about these things, to see in my comments people that have been growing plants for decades still saying, I'm still learning. I'm still losing plants all the time. I'm still getting humbled by plants. Every day is a school day. Like, nobody comes inbuilt with knowledge on every single plant and how to care for them perfectly. So yes, 100% I kill plants. They're never intentional deaths, but it's more like little learning opportunities along the way, and that is completely fine. And I'll add on to that as well, because people are very kind of focused on kind of appearances sometimes. Do I always have pristine plants? No! Look at the plants behind me. They don't always look their best. I'm gonna burst some people's bubbles now and just kind of say, in nature, they wouldn't look their best. And I do know there's a lot of people that are going to come back to that and say, well, they're not in nature. It's up to us to keep them as pristine as possible. That is fine. But I think the thing that a lot of people tend to forget with that is a decision that you are making for your plants. Don't be judging other people that don't follow your edict when it comes to that. That's the only thing. We can all coexist and have different ways of doing things. Certain things would stress some people out. Certain things don't stress people out. It's fine. We can all be a harmonious community while still having our differences. But yes, on that slightly controversial note, I think I'll wrap this up. And as I said, if you've got any more questions, do let me know down below. Any of these surprised you or my answers surprised you? Again, let me know. But hopefully you've enjoyed. Hopefully I shall see you here soon. And I truly, truly hope that you have a great rest of your day. Thanks. Bye.